My name is Catherine Mercer, and I'm 39. The night my boyfriend said, God, why does everyone keep asking? We're just dating. Kat needs to stop acting like we're married. Something steady inside me stood up, smoothed her skirt, and left the part of me that made excuses for a man who enjoyed the benefits of a future he refused to name. We were at Bramble and Rye, his favorite place to flex. Brick walls, waxed wood, a back bar that looked like an amber cathedral. The table was full. Desiree, Ben, Leah, Marco, and Tasha, the self-appointed inner circle. They'd asked, teasingly, about dates and venues, the way people do when the love looks obvious from the outside and the bill looks obvious from the inside. I had paid for the wine flights last time. I had driven 40 minutes to pick Mark up for his friend's game night. I had, more than once, pressed my credit card across the line of, it's fine, I've got it, because building something is never a perfectly even ledger, or so I believed. Mark's laugh landed wrong. Not a warm deflection. No, something brittle and performative. We're just dating, he repeated, and the words chose a chair between us and sat down like a lawyer. I smiled the way women smile when they know the room is watching for a fight. You're absolutely right, I said, my voice even, my fork neatly placed across a plate I was still paying for in more than one currency. He blinked. What? You're right, I said again, taking the sting out of it with a shrug. We're just dating. I've been overthinking. Desiree exhaled, relieved. Tasha toyed with her bracelet. Someone flagged the server. The check arrived, a leather folio with the kind of weight that says, choose your values. Usually, I would have lifted it like a reflex. Instead, I opened my phone's calculator and said, cheerful. Looks like it's $68 each for the 6 of you, and we can Venmo the rest. Silence, the crisp, expensive kind. Desiree tried first. Kat, I usually covered it, I said gently, when I thought we were building something. But Mark clarified we're just dating. Casual is good. Casual keeps the math clean. Mark's jaw worked, unpracticed at having witnesses to the part where generosity ends. Babe, don't be weird. I'm not, I said, smiling like I meant it. I'm honoring your boundary. Phones appeared. Venmos whooshed. Money, when it leaves a room, carries air with it. In the car, he vibrated with quiet fury. That was humiliating. For who? For me. I thought you'd be relieved, I said. You were suffocating, remember? This way, air for everyone. He stared out the window the way people do when the thing they want to say would sound ugly if it arrived as words. The next morning, he texted, What time are you picking me up for my cousin's wedding? I typed, I'm not. Then, because I could feel the incoming storm, added, You can drive or Uber. Spending 3 hours as your silent +1 is a little marriage coded for two people who are just dating. He called 15 times. I sliced an apple and answered none of them. I updated my dating app profile from open to possibilities to looking for something serious with someone who shows up. It felt less like a threat and more like finally using my real name on a lease. That afternoon, I went into the office. Fridays are half work, half triage in our department. Vince, my teammate with the dry wit and spreadsheets that reconcile like prayers, rolled his chair toward mine. So, he said, how was the inner circle? Rounded, I said. Geometrically instructive. He grinned. You look calm. That's suspicious. I'm doing an experiment, I told him. Matching energy, like for like. At 5, the sky turned copper. Vince tapped the corner of my monitor. Happy hour? Casual, and I actually mean casual. Tempting, I said, and meant it. But I promised myself I'd cook tonight. Another time, he said, backing away with a half salute. He didn't linger in doorways. I made a quiet note of that. At home, I seared steak for one in a pan that held heat like a grudge. The doorbell rang after 9. Mark had a key. I'd given it to him 8 months ago, gratefully, like you do when you want someone to fit your life the way your favorite sweater fits your shoulders. He let himself in. We need to talk about your attitude, he said, bypassing hello. What attitude? I plated the steak and set it down. I'm just following your lead. This isn't what I meant. What did you mean then? I asked, honestly asking, because clarity is a kindness. He gestured at the living room. All this pressure. Everyone asking about marriage. It's too much. Okay, I said. Then we're not pressured. We're just dating. And I'll adjust my investment accordingly. His eyes fell to my phone where a notification pulsed. A new message on the app I'd reopened. He went very still. Are you kidding me? What? I forked a piece of steak. We're just dating. You never said we were exclusive. We've been together 2 years. No, I said softly. We've been dating for 2 years, according to you. He didn't throw anything. He isn't that kind of man. He did something worse. He looked at me like I had broken decorum, like generosity was the unspoken contract and I'd torn it up on the table where his friends watched. He left. Weekend came. I did not go to the wedding. I took myself to the river market and walked past stalls of late peaches and jars of honey labeled with the names of the streets the bees had flown over. I bought flowers and put them in the sink to drink. I breathed. Sunday night, he tried again. Ride to work tomorrow? My car's making a noise. Can't help there, I replied. Maybe the mechanic your ex recommended? Tessa? Her name hangs in the air around him sometimes, a caution sign he pretends he can't see. Are you serious right now? As serious as we're not, I wrote back and set the phone face down. Monday, he showed up at my office. Security called up. Your boyfriend is here. Tell them he's just someone I'm dating, I said into the receiver. Let's see if they buzz him up. They didn't. It wasn't personal. It was policy. Mark texted me a photo of the lobby plants. This is ridiculous. Come back when we're serious, I typed, and felt the flicker of a laugh I didn't owe him. He waited by my car for 2 hours. When I finally came down, with Vince, who was showing me something on his phone that made me genuinely laugh, Mark's face went hard and interesting. Who's he? Mark asked, eyes on Vince's hand near mine. Proximity is its own kind of confession. A coworker, I said. We're grabbing drinks, casual ones, nothing serious. Vince, God bless him, played along without knowing the script. Yeah, super casual, he said deadpan. All lowercase casual. We left Mark in the parking garage, the echo swallowing the rest of whatever he had planned to say. That week, he tried new tactics. He showed up at my gym at 6 a.m. in an old college hoodie and did 3 sets of the wrong thing next to me. I moved benches. He followed. I left. He appeared at the 86, the bar where I watch basketball and pretend I know the math. He hates sports. He sat 2 tables away with a couple of guys I didn't recognize and laughed too loudly. I ignored him and had, improbably, an excellent conversation with a woman at the bar about a point guard's decision tree. On Thursday, a familiar quote drifted onto my feed from Mark's page. When you realize your worth and stop accepting the bare minimum. I stared at it long enough to feel the irony warm my hands. Derek, my oldest friend, screenshotted it and sent it with a string of emojis that said everything a man in his 40s can't be caught saying out loud. I posted nothing. I cooked dinner. I slept. Friday afternoon, the universe sent me a small gift. Brianna, sharp, kind, allergic to nonsense, sidled up at a team happy hour Mark had somehow learned about and materialized at, uninvited. He was working the room with a nervous charm that made people check their watches. So, Brianna said brightly, glancing between us, I thought you two were just dating. The air shifted. Mark coughed. I smiled. Exactly, I said. And it's going great. Vince's laugh was quiet, but not unkind. We left early. Together, but not together. Mark watched us go, like a man who'd set down a glass and watched it roll off the table edge in slow motion, unable to catch it without admitting he'd let it go. Outside, the sky threatened rain. Vince opened his mouth to say something, then didn't. The good men, the real ones, have a way of giving you the last word without making you carry the last weight. Thanks for walking me out, I said. Of course, he said. Text me if you need an alibi. For what? For choosing yourself, he said and grinned. It's usually a crime somewhere. When I got home, there was an email from Mark, 4 paragraphs, and a tone that thought it was reasonable. He wanted to clarify expectations, recalibrate optics, and restore equilibrium. It read like a quarterly report for a company that had mistaken its customer for its product. I closed my laptop. The flowers in the sink had drunk their fill. I lifted them, shook off the extra water, and set them where morning light would find them. Some things bloom after you stop apologizing for what they need. Part 2. The following week, the quiet wasn't empty. It was clean. I'd expected noise, late-night texts, guilt loops, some performative grand gesture. Instead, there was nothing. Just the faint hum of my refrigerator and the steady rhythm of my own calendar. Until Thursday. Mark posted a photo of himself on Instagram. Same cafe, same chair we used to share on Sundays. The caption, "Some people only love you when you pay their way." His followers, Mostly his coworkers and the friends I'd introduced him to responded with sad emojis and heart reactions. By noon, Desiree texted me, "Girl, you seeing this? He's making you look like the villain." I typed back, "Then he should send me royalties for the script." But it stung, the way salt stings even clean wounds. Friday morning, a knock at my office door. Vince leaned against the frame, holding a to-go cup. "Your favorite," he said, one shot shy of an anxiety attack. I smiled, grateful. "How'd you know I needed this?" "Your name's trending in small circles," he said, lowering his voice. "Word's out that you're a financial abuser." I laughed before I could stop myself. "Me? Because I stopped picking up the check?" "Apparently," he said, sitting across from me. "Men don't like losing their investors." That word, investor, stuck to the walls of my mind all day. That evening, Mark called. I didn't answer. Then he called again, and again. By the 10th ring, I picked up, just to end it. "Kat," he said, his voice syruped with frustration. "We need to talk. You're making me look bad." "I'm not making you do anything," I said evenly. "You're doing that fine on your own." "You know this is unfair. I helped you too." "Really? Let's talk numbers." Silence. I pulled up my spreadsheet. Yes, I'd started one. The same way I track budgets, projects, deadlines. Order makes truth easier to hold. Your phone bill, $80. Gas pickups, $240 monthly average. Dates, around $800 a month. Your car emergency, $1,200 over 3 months. I could keep going. "That's insane, Kat. You're keeping score?" "No," I said. "I'm keeping records. Investors do that." He exhaled sharply. "You sound like a lawyer." "No," I said. "Just a woman who's done funding someone else's narrative." He hung up. 5 minutes later, a new post. "When they turn love into math, you realize it was never love." I didn't reply, but I noticed who liked it. Tessa, the ex, of course. Saturday morning, my mother called. She'd seen the posts. Small towns move faster than algorithms. "Baby," she said, "don't you let that boy rewrite your story." "I'm fine, Mom." "I know you are," she said. "I raised you that way, but make sure he knows it too." Her voice carried the calm of a woman who'd survived worse storms with cheaper men. That night, I met Brianna for drinks. The bar hummed with weekend noise, laughs, perfume, clinking glasses. She leaned in. "So, rumor is Mark's been crying poor mouth, saying you're punishing him." "I'm not punishing anyone," I said. "I'm just not paying tuition for his comfort anymore." Brianna laughed so hard she nearly spilled her drink. "Put that on a shirt." From across the room, I saw him. Mark. He looked like a ghost that hadn't realized he'd died, standing too close to the bar, scanning faces. When his eyes landed on mine, the air thinned. He crossed over, smile brittle. "Hey, can we talk?" "About what?" I asked. "My credit score?" "Come on, Kat. You don't have to make a scene." "You made the scene, Mark," I said softly. "I'm just in the sequel." The bartender, catching the tension, hovered nearby. Mark took a half step back. Vince appeared beside me, timing so perfect I almost believed in fate. "Everything okay here?" he asked, tone casual but firm. "Fine," I said, just finishing an old conversation. Mark looked between us, calculation flickering in his eyes. "Coworker, huh? That what we're calling it now?" Vince raised an eyebrow. "Yes, because that's what it is." Mark laughed too loud. "Sure, until it's not." "Don't do that," I said. "Don't project your habits onto my boundaries." People nearby were starting to notice. Mark caught it too. His jaw tightened. "Enjoy your drinks." He left, trailing a silence that buzzed long after he was gone. Sunday, he texted, "I miss us." Then another, "Can we start over?" Then, finally, "You've made your point. You win." I stared at that last one for a long time. Winning had never been the goal. Freedom was. Monday morning, a curveball. Human Resources sent me an alert. Visitor in the lobby, no appointment. Mark. Security buzzed. "He is insisting it's urgent." "Tell him we're not married," I said. "So technically, he's trespassing." When I left the building later, he was waiting by my car again, a paper cup of coffee sweating in his hand. "You won't even talk to me?" he said. "Not here." "Then where?" "Nowhere that costs me peace." He smiled, almost pleading. "I just want to fix it." "You can't fix what you never intended to build." That landed. He looked down, hands tightening around the cup. "Everyone thinks I'm the bad guy." "Maybe stop acting like one," I said, unlocking my car. "Kat, please." I opened the door. "Mark, go home. To whatever version of you still believes this is my fault." I drove away before he could answer. By Wednesday, he'd tried a new tactic, showing up at my gym. He hated mornings, but there he was at 6 a.m., all sweat and repentance. He waved. I didn't. He followed me from treadmills to weights until I finally stopped and looked him in the eye. Mark, this is my space. I just want to talk. You've said that 3 times and never listened once. Can we at least get breakfast? No, we can't even get closure, apparently. He looked small, confused by his own reflection in my calm. I walked out. That night, my phone lit up again. Desiree texting a screenshot of Mark's new post. Some women confuse independence with cruelty. Desiree added, "Girl, he's unraveling." I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my journal and wrote one line. When you stop playing in the caretaker, they call you cold. I slept better than I had in months. Friday evening, my phone buzzed again, this time from an unknown number. Tessa. Hey, Kat, I don't know if this is awkward, but Mark reached out to me. He's been saying you're punishing him. Thought you should know. Thanks, I replied. How'd he find you? He messaged me on Instagram, asked if I'd been through the same thing. And what did you say? That he's learned nothing. Then, after a pause, she sent a screenshot of their chat. Mark had written, "She's weaponizing generosity." Tessa's reply, "No, she's learning boundaries. There's a difference." I stared at the blue text bubbles, something like relief washing through me. Not because Tessa defended me, but because the pattern was finally visible. He wasn't my mistake. He was my proof. Saturday night, my phone buzzed again, this time with an unfamiliar name, Gabrielle. She'd tagged Mark in a photo. Him, smiling beside her at some rooftop bar. Caption, "When a real man treats you right." I laughed out loud, softly, disbelieving. It was all happening faster than I expected. Vince texted me not long after. Saw the post, guess he's rebranding. Apparently, I wrote back, some startups fail fast. He sent a single emoji, and for the first time in months, I raised my glass without guilt. Because losing something hollow can sound a lot like freedom when it finally hits the floor. Part 3. 2 weeks later, Mark 2.0 was thriving, at least online. Rooftop dinners, gym selfies, inspirational captions about new beginnings. Every photo looked like it had been staged by someone auditioning for happiness. His new girlfriend, Gabrielle, was exactly the kind of woman he thought the world wanted him to date. High gloss, curated, fluent in hashtags. They were together in every story, tagged in every check-in. The kind of couple that needs Wi-Fi more than chemistry. And somehow it didn't bother me. It fascinated me. Because I'd seen that version of him before. The man who performs care so he doesn't have to feel it. One morning at work, Vince glanced at my phone and said, "Isn't that your ex? He's everywhere lately." "Yeah," I said, "like mold." He laughed. "You sure you're not even a little curious?" "I'm curious about people who do the work," I said. "Not the reruns." Vince nodded, tapping his mug against mine. "Well, here's to reruns getting canceled. But the internet has its own timing." 3 Fridays later, my group chat lit up like a siren. Desiree, check Gabrielle's story now. I opened Instagram. A romantic vineyard weekend. Wine glasses, sunset filters, his arm draped around her shoulder. Caption, "Some people just get it right on the second try." I scrolled, unimpressed, until another message came in from Priya, one of Vince's friends. "Wait, that's the same guy from last weekend. He told me he was single." I froze. "Oh, wait, Mark?" "Yeah, met him on Hinge, finance bro energy, said he was rebuilding trust." Then came the screenshot. Mark's profile, same smile, same caption style, same Tesla. It got worse. Kayla, another mutual acquaintance, posted a photo that night. Different restaurant, same weekend. Her caption, "When he surprises you with a spontaneous trip. Different dress, different city, same man." By Sunday morning, the overlap was impossible to miss. 3 women, 1 weekend, 3 locations. Mark had somehow turned deceit into a scheduling exercise. Desiree texted again. "Girl, the comments on Gabrielle's post are savage. People are tagging the other girls." I checked. "Sis, check his page." "Is your man in 2 places at once?" "Delete this. It's embarrassing." By noon, Gabrielle's profile had gone private. By 5, she'd deleted everything. By 7, my phone lit up. "Mark, did you know?" he demanded, skipping any greeting. "No, what about Gabrielle?" His breath came jagged. "She was cheating, with 2 guys. I thought she was different." I leaned against my counter, watching the kettle hiss. "That must feel awful," I said. He hesitated. "You don't sound surprised." "I'm not. You attract reflections, Mark. You always have." "That's not fair." "It's math," I said. "You get what you mirror." He was quiet for a moment. I made a mistake. Which one? I asked. There's a spreadsheet. Don't do that, he said softly. I mean it this time. I miss you. No, I said, gentle but firm. You miss the version of me that made your life easier. That's not true. Okay, I said, prove it. Date me without money, convenience, or favors. 6 months. All you. Then we'll talk. That's not fair, Kat. You make 3 times what I make. And I dated you when you were between jobs, I said. Fair's subjective. He sighed. We can't go backward. Exactly, I said, and ended the call. He didn't take the rejection quietly. Within a week, his mother Diane messaged mine on Facebook. Mom called me that night, chuckling darkly. You'll never guess who reached out. I already knew. Let me guess. The woman who raised entitlement as an elective? She tried to guilt me, Mom said. Said you were ruining her son emotionally and financially. I laughed. Financially? I stopped funding him. That's not ruin, that's math correction. Mom snorted. I told her that if her 36-year-old son can't support himself without your money, that's her failure as a parent, not yours as a girlfriend. Mom, I said, smiling, you didn't. Oh, I did. I also told her that when your father died, you were 16, and I still managed to put us through school and keep a roof over our heads. So if her boy needs a woman's wallet to breathe, he can buy a snorkel. Mom, I groaned, laughing. You're brutal. Baby, she said. I'm retired, not dead. I have time now. That same week, a 4-page email arrived from Mark. Subject line, for closure. It wasn't closure, it was an itemized list. Everything he thought he'd done for me. Drove me to the airport twice. Helped fix my sink once. Attended my mother's birthday dinner, emotional labor. At the bottom, he included a payment plan he thought I should follow to make amends for emotional exhaustion. He even suggested an installment schedule. I read it twice, then forwarded it to Vince with the subject line, Q4 delusion report. Vince wrote back within a minute. Recommend no further investment. Liquidate remaining empathy. I laughed so hard I almost cried. That Friday, I finally blocked Mark. Phone, socials, email, everything. The silence that followed wasn't revenge, it was air. Saturday, I met Vince at a small jazz bar. No pretense, no performance. He insisted on paying half. When the check came, we split it, automatic, effortless. He looked at me and said, equality looks good on you. It feels lighter than I expected, I said. Lighter suits you, he said. So does peace. When I got home, a message request blinked on my phone. A new number. Mark again. I hope you know you ruined my life. I really did love you. I stared at it for a long time, then locked my phone. Because maybe the truth was simpler. I hadn't ruined his life. I'd just stopped underwriting it. Later that night, I opened a new note on my phone and typed, when you stop financing someone's fantasy, they'll call it cruelty. But it's just clarity. I saved it, turned off the light, and let the quiet do its work. Because the thing about boundaries is they don't just protect you. They reveal who was never planning to stay once they couldn't take more than they gave. And in the soft dark, I realized something small but seismic. He hadn't broken me. He'd just proven I'd finally learned what not to build on. Part 4. It's been 6 weeks since the night Mark laughed about marriage like it was a punchline. 6 weeks since I picked up my own half of the check. And my own half of the sky. Funny thing about endings. They get quieter the closer you come to peace. The world stops echoing their name. Your phone stops lighting up with ghosts. You just breathe again. Mark didn't vanish completely. People like him rarely do. They linger in the corners of conversations, reshaped into cautionary tales. Desiree told me he'd move back in with his mother temporarily. Apparently, Diane had posted something online about children always having a home to come back to. 15 heart emojis, 3 praying hands, and 1 passive-aggressive Bible verse about forgiveness. Comments were a mix of sympathy and snickering. Everyone in their circle already knew the story. The real surprise came one rainy Tuesday morning when my email pinged. Subject, a good faith gesture. It was from Mark, again. 4 pages, dense, defensive, dripping with self-importance. He'd attached a PDF labeled Reconciliation Proposal. Inside was an absurd list of unacknowledged contributions he believed I owed him for. Teaching you about car maintenance. Introducing you to upscale dining. Emotional labor incurred from your coldness during the last 6 months. At the end, he'd calculated a total balance of $2,416 and suggested I transfer half as a symbolic gesture of goodwill. Then, unbelievably, he added, I still think we could work if you just admitted how much I did for you. I didn't reply. I just forwarded it to Vince with a note. You can't make this stuff up. He wrote back one line. He's billing you for closure. Wild. That night, I printed the email, folded it once, and slid it into my old binder labeled Red Flags Archive. It joined things like a torn concert ticket from our first fight and a receipt from the night I realized he never tipped servers. Proof that sometimes love stories don't end. They file themselves under education expenses. Meanwhile, my life had quietly started expanding. I was running again, 5 miles every Saturday. My apartment stayed exactly as I left it. My energy no longer drained in conversations about proving my feelings. And Vince had become something more, but in a way that didn't need labeling yet. He showed up in small ways, the kind that matter. When my tire went flat, he didn't grab the wrench. He just stood beside me, handed me gloves, and said, "You've got this." We laughed through the whole thing, covered in grease and relief. Later, over coffee, he said, some people rescue. Some people remind you you're already capable. I like the second kind. I smiled. Me too. Me. A week later, my mom invited me over for dinner. Homemade lasagna, soft jazz, her version of love and carbohydrates. Over dessert, she asked, "How's the new one?" New what? The man who looks at you like you're a sunrise. He's trying not to wake too quickly. I laughed. We're just seeing where it goes. She nodded. Good. As long as you remember. Peace isn't boring. It's stability you haven't had time to trust yet. That night before bed, I scrolled past a meme that made me stop. A split-screen photo. On one side, a crumbling house labeled "What You Built on Approval." On the other, a bright, steady one labeled "What You Build on Respect." It felt like the summary of the last 2 years of my life. Then, out of nowhere, a notification. Mark mentioned you in a story. I opened it. A blurry photo of a cocktail napkin captioned, "Some people never appreciate what they had." No name, but everyone knew. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Then I remembered what my therapist once said. Pity is still energy. Don't give him any form of it. Not even the kind that feels noble. So I blocked him again and deleted the app for the weekend. On Sunday morning, I walked to the farmer's market. The same one where I'd bought those flowers the first weekend we stopped speaking. A new vendor had a sign that said, "Everything grows better when you stop overwatering it." It made me laugh out loud. I bought a small bouquet, wildflowers, nothing fancy, and texted Mom a photo. She replied with a heart and, "Proud of you, baby. You finally stopped trying to garden on concrete." Later that week, Vince and I went to dinner. We split the bill, like always. When the waiter brought the check, he said, "You two make this look easy." Vince grinned. "That's because it is, when both people show up." I met his eyes. 50-50 never felt so simple. He lifted his glass. Two adults doing the math right. We clinked, and I felt the kind of calm that used to terrify me, because I mistook it for emptiness. Turns out, it's just the absence of chaos. Every now and then, someone still brings up the dinner story, the night I split the check. It's become legend among my friends. They call it the Great Reckoning. And honestly, I don't mind, because it was the night I stopped auditioning for love and started investing in self-respect. If Mark ever reads this, I hope he understands. He didn't lose me because he couldn't afford me. He lost me because he couldn't value what didn't come with a price tag. People think closure comes from a final word or grand apology. It doesn't. It comes quietly, like the moment you stop explaining yourself and just start living. So here's my real final entry. I didn't ruin his life. I revealed it. And when I removed my support beam from under his foundation, the house simply collapsed. Not out of spite, just gravity. The same force that finally pulled me back to myself.